Welcome to the 5th instalment of my Top 180s film series. We've reached the halfway point, and this year the films get really good. So come and join me in recounting my favourite films that were released during the year of the original Transformers cartoon and the British television premiere of Thomas the Tank Engine.
Listen, guy, I don't know. I was partying with Days back then.
Yes, but which of us really had the better childhood? Me with my talking train cartoon, or you with your well-to-do parents, your fancy cars, your friendship with the popular kids, your blonde bombshell of a girlfriend? It was you. It was you, wasn't it, Johnny? Ladies and gentlemen, Snooty Nerds! Top 10 Films of 1984. Our first entry is probably the most unhinged superhero movie ever made, The Toxic Avenger. And I don't mean Tony Stark on a bad day. A simple-minded janitor is constantly harassed by psychotic jocks, one of whom is named Bozo, by the way, who is the most hilarious overacting in cinema history.
I can't take it, Louis. I cannot take it. He is screwing up my karma! Ah!
The janitor ends up falling into a vat of toxic chemicals and becomes a super strong mutant with a basic instinct to destroy evil. He's brutal with the criminals, like dunking one of their hands into a deep fat fryer and suffocating another by making a sundae in his gob. Surprisingly, Leroy doesn't get brain freeze from this, probably because he doesn't have a brain. Now, if you don't mind all the blood and gore, it's a satisfying experience. The psychotic jocks get exactly what they deserve, and of course, there's much fan service with naked women. Jackie Chan often collaborated with fellow martial arts action stars Sammo Hung and Yuan Biao, one example being Meals on Wheels, in which Jackie and Yuan play Thomas and David, a pair of skateboarding fast food chefs running a high-tech lunch wagon in Barcelona. They get roped into helping a con artist named Sylvia and end up as her reluctant bodyguards against a group of kidnappers. Sammo Hung, meanwhile, plays Moby, a hapless private detective who's looking for Sylvia and gets drunk on sangria. It all comes together when Sylvia gets kidnapped as part of an inheritance dispute, and our heroes infiltrate an old castle to rescue her. Come to think of it, it's a little bit like that Lupin III film, Castle of Cagliostro. Known as Spartan X in Japan, it provided the inspiration for the popular NES game Kung Fu. Well, at least the name is Thomas and Sylvia. The overall plot of climbing the pagoda actually comes from Bruce Lee's Game of Death. There's this thing called a play within a play, popularised by Shakespeare's works, like Hamlet and Taming of the Shrew. The never-ending story plays with this concept in a more fantastical way. Introducing our protagonist Bastian, a bullied introvert who's in mourning after his mother dies.
I'm very disappointed that you didn't even try out for the swimming team.
To be fair to him, competitive swimming isn't that easy. My late grandmother was an Olympic swimmer, so I know how high that bar is raised. His main means of escapism is books, and he's something of a badass bookworm.
No, I've read Treasure Island, The Last of the Mohicans, Wizard of Oz, Lord of the Rings, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Tarzan...
He read Lord of the Rings at his age. He probably powered through the entire trilogy in a weekend. He borrows an enchanted book in which we follow the hero of our film within the film, the warrior Atreyu, the kid you wish you were at that age, in a quest to save the fantasy world of Fantasia from a great evil called the Nothing. And its little dog too. And how can I not mention the film's iconic mascot character, Falkor, the dragon who looks like a big hairy dog. It's a charming film that will remind you that imagination is something to be celebrated, and to not let shitheads like Penny from The Big Bang Theory dump all over it. There are so many timeless Christmas movies. A Wonderful Life, 1983's A Christmas Story, and this year's heartwarming holiday tale, Gremlins. Okay, it's not so much a Christmas movie, so much as a monster movie that happens to take place around Christmas, treading the line between horror and comedy, and occasional dark comedy. Billy is a hapless bank clerk whose dad gets him something unusual for Christmas, a mogwai named Gizmo. Now, there are 3 rules about owning a mogwai. Don't expose them to bright light, don't get them wet, and don't feed them after midnight. The family ends up breaking all 3 of those rules, causing an infestation of Furby-like critters that turn into hellish gremlins, hell-bent on one thing: throwing the wildest Christmas party ever, be it through reckless property damage or taking over the local bar for a right good booze-up. Poor Kate has definitely earned her tips tonight. There's a lot of good gangster movies out there. Goodfellas, Scarface, The Godfather trilogy, and of course, Johnny Dangerously. Right from the opening credits with Weird Al Yankovic's This Is the Life blaring in the background, you know you're in for some off-the-wall insanity. Michael Keaton plays the eponymous Johnny, a good-natured shoeshiner who gets a job with the local mafia to pay for his mother's medical bills and put his little brother through college. But things get complicated when his brother becomes the district attorney, dedicated to fighting crime. It's a hilarious parody of the gangster genre with little regard for the fourth wall, a style of humour that won't be to everyone's taste, but I grew up with Samurai Pizza Cats, so I'm all for it. By now, we're used to seeing the fish out of water trope, especially in sitcoms like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and nothing in the 80s did it better than Beverly Hills Cop, the film that made Eddie Murphy a superstar. He plays the streetwise Axel Foley, a loose cannon cop from Detroit who takes it upon himself to go undercover in Beverly Hills to investigate the murder of his best friend. It's a perfect balance of action and comedy. Over-the-top chases and brutal gunfights are counterbalanced by quick-witted humour, making the best use of Murphy's expertise as a stand-up comedian to deflate the pomposity of his uptight rival colleagues. Like the unforgettable scene of shoving a banana up their tailpipe. No, that's not a double entendre. He literally sticks a banana in their car's tailpipe to stop them from following him. I wonder if the banana was still edible when they removed it. The Karate Kid is the story of Daniel, a violent sociopath who... The Karate Kid is the story of Daniel, a hot-headed football hooligan who moves to a new town, meets a girl he likes, and runs afoul of her jealous ex-boyfriend, who's 6 foot tall, has a short temper, and happens to be a black belt. Unable to leave well enough alone, Daniel tries to stick it to Johnny and the Cobra Kai gang, only to get himself beaten senseless. That's when the unassuming karate master, Mr. Miyagi, pops in to politely defuse the situation. He takes Daniel under his wing and arranges with the boys to settle their differences the clean way in the All-Valley Karate Tournament, thus beginning the most iconic mentor-disciple relationship since the days of Merlin and King Arthur, or Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luke Skywalker. In addition to the most quintessentially 80s soundtrack of all the films on this list, pretty much all the performances are memorable. There's a reason this film spawned the Cobra Kai series on Netflix, with almost everyone from this film and the sequels coming back for one last hurrah! One of the only good legacy sequels in existence. You may remember from my top 10 films of 1981 video that I called the Indiana Jones trilogy the 80s most consistently excellent film series, and here we have the second installment, Temple of Doom. Indy has a crash landing in India with his 2 sidekicks, histrionic lounge singer Willie and fast-talking kid con artist Short Round. They're asked to retrieve the village's sacred stone, along with rescuing the village children, who've been taken to work slave labour in the eponymous temple's mine by a thuggy cult. The high standards of action and adventure are retained, such as the amazing minecart scene, and somewhat darker death sequences, such as live hearts being removed from human sacrifices, balanced out with just the right amount of humour.
Hey, I'm right here.
Although the producers were completely oblivious as to Indian cuisine. Now, what's the first thing you think of when you talk about Indian food?
Chicken vindaloo?
Exactly. Who serves live eels at an Indian dinner party? Gordon Ramsay needs to have a very serious word with its palace chef.
And you're sending me raw fish, but it's cold, it's raw.
AI-generated artwork and voiceovers are doing people out of a job. Ironically, we were warned about artificial intelligence getting out of hand with James Cameron's first Terminator film. Dino waitress Sarah Connor becomes the target of a relentless killing machine when she's rescued by time traveller Kyle Reese, who tells her that in his time, the machines have taken over the world, and her future son John Connor becomes the saviour of the human race. Kyle Reese is an underrated badass. In his time, he blows up Rob the Robot. Although he's a bit of a bad driver. Turn your lights on! But we can't talk about the Terminator without talking about the Terminator himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger. He steals the show right from the start with his intimidating physique and his cold delivery.
I'll be back.
Not to mention the iconic look of the leather jacket and sunglasses, even wearing them at night. It builds on the neo-noir trend starting with Blade Runner, and balances action and suspense with time travel and a gratuitous sex scene. Wait, does that mean Kyle in the future is going to tell John Connor, I f***ed your mom? Before we get to number 1, let's have a quick recap. Number 10, The Toxic Avenger. Number 9, Wheels on Meals. Number 8, The Never-Ending Story. Number 7, Gremlins. Number 6, Johnny Dangerously. Number 5, Beverly Hills Cop. Number 4, The Karate Kid. Number 3, Temple of Doom. Number 2, The Terminator. And number 1. When a trio of quirky scientists get kicked out of a university because of their research into the paranormal, they decide to start up their own business. Ghostbusters. Blending comedy with science fiction and the supernatural. As well as all the creative ghost designs, we have an excellent cast with Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, Ernie Hudson, Sigourney Weaver and Rick Moranis, just to name a few. Plenty of character-focused humour, with Bill Murray's effortless wit and sarcasm as Peter Venkman, Harold Ramis' deadpan delivery as Egon, and Dan Aykroyd's scatterbrained energy as Ray.
Wow, this place is great! When can we move in?
And it didn't stop with just the one film. A sequel, action figures, a shitty man-hating reboot, a somewhat well-received legacy sequel, and a cartoon series in which Peter shares his voice act with Garfield. Ghostbusters wasn't just a comedy, but the start of one of pop culture's most enduring franchises. And that's my list of the top 10 films of 1984. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, or it'll come back to haunt you when the 1985 list comes out.